Welcome to U.S. Defense Line Channel. No other army is allowed on the territory of Ukraine. Like the Russian soldiers, the Chechen soldiers are cornered on the fronts. Sounds of explosions echoed from the military equipment of the Russian troops in the regions. As a result of operations in Donbass, dozens of Chechen soldiers were neutralized. Ukraine is advancing in such a way that it overcomes any army it encounters. Chechen leader Kadyrov's inadequacies in the military field have been revealed. Kadyrov, who criticizes Russian soldiers heavily, cannot even manage his own soldiers. According to the breaking news, the Ukrainian armed forces repulsed the attacks of both the Russian troops and the Chechen battalion on the Donetsk and Luhansk fronts, which are critical areas, and neutralized many of them. According to the statements, the attacks of the Russian troops in many critical areas, such as Marinka, Vodian, Yampil on the Donetsk front, and Bielo-Horivka on the Luhansk front were repelled and forced to retreat. Then the Ukrainian troops made an effective move towards the Chechen battalion in the Lysychansk region. As a result of this move, 45 Chechen soldiers were neutralized. Loss of the Chechen leader's army after Russia's losses on the fronts proves the great success of the Ukrainian troops. At the same time, as it is known, the Chechen leader Kadyrov has sent thousands of Chechen soldiers to the fronts to support Russia since the beginning of the war. However, this Chechen army sent is having a hard time achieving success, because these soldiers, who were sent to the regions where the violence of the war increased considerably, both have difficulty in making a move against the Ukrainian army, and it seems that they did not have enough equipment. Moreover, we have seen before that these troops were looking for a place to escape and suffered serious losses. Even Chechen leader Kadyrov recently admitted to the loss of Chechen soldiers on the Ukrainian fronts. With these developments, it is proven that the Chechen leader Kadyrov could not show the success he expected in the war. Moreover, despite not having a war of his own, he lost many of his soldiers and regretted that he entered the war. Ukraine, on the other hand, carried out 22 airstrikes against Russian forces with its planes. It was announced that 2 of these attacks were made on the anti-aircraft defense system of the Russian forces and 20 on the points where the Russian forces, their weapons and military equipment are located. Ukraine's rocket and artillery units also announced that they hit 1 ammunition depot, 1 electronic warfare system, 2 Russian command points, 8 Russian military forces, the point where their weapons and military equipment are located, and many other important military targets. General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine announced the latest casualties of Russian forces. 530 Russian forces were neutralized in one day. Russian forces suffered the greatest losses at the Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Lyman fronts. Ukrainian forces destroyed 1 artillery system, 6 tanks, 19 armored combat vehicles, and 7 unmanned aerial vehicles of Russian troops in one day. It is also known that neutralizing 530 of the Russian forces in just one day is a serious loss. Tensions are increasing on the Moscow side, which has lost hundreds of its soldiers every day. If the struggle continues until there are no more Russian soldiers to fight, it will be a great defeat for Russia. Both countries continue to organize mutual attacks. Russian forces carried out 24 airstrikes, 4 missile strikes, and over 55 multiple launch rocket system attacks. In response, Ukraine responded to Russia by launching attacks. Ukrainian forces continue to destroy important equipment of the Russian forces. Anti-aircraft missile units of the Ukrainian Air Force destroyed a Russian Su-25 aircraft in the Kherson Oblast. Ukraine's Southern Air Command shared the loss of Russian forces. In these days when the importance of all kinds of military equipment is very high, each decrease can cause big problems for Russia. It is almost impossible for Russia, whose offensive power is gradually decreasing, to achieve success because its defense power is also quite insufficient. As Russian forces launched missile strikes against Ukraine, they depleted their stockpiles of missiles. It was reported that most of Russia's missile stocks were depleted after the Russian forces frequently used missiles and Iranian-made unmanned aerial vehicles due to military equipment deficiencies. Ukrainian intelligence made a statement on this matter. Vadim Skibitsky, representative of the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, announced that Russia used about 80% of its modern missiles in the attack on Ukraine. As a result of this statement, it is estimated that Russia currently has 120 Iskander missiles. It was reported that Russia made an agreement with Iran in order to replenish the stock that it had reduced by attacking the infrastructures in Ukraine. Skibitsky also revealed that Ukrainian military intelligence is aware of Russia's plans to purchase Zolfagar and Fata 110 missiles from Iran. He stated that Russia is considering sending them to Crimea by air and then to the Russian Caspian seaports by sea. Mikhailo Podolyak, advisor to the Office of the President of Ukraine, stated that Ukraine has never completely rejected the negotiation with Russia, but the most important condition for the negotiation to take place is the withdrawal of Russian forces from the territory of Ukraine. It is clear that Ukraine will not enter into negotiations unless Russian forces withdraw from Ukrainian territory. Podolyak also stated that Putin is obviously not ready, so they will talk to Russia's next leaders. Russia has made such a statement before. Russia had previously stated that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was not willing to negotiate and that Russia could meet with a new president who would be willing to negotiate. On September 30th, Zelensky also announced that he was ready to negotiate, but not with Vladimir Putin, but with another Russian president. In fact, it cannot be said that there is full progress in the negotiations by both countries. However, it doesn't make much sense for Ukraine to negotiate while Russian forces are on Ukrainian soil. On the other hand, we will see in the coming days whether Russia is ready to sit in negotiations by withdrawing its soldiers from the lands. On the other hand, Western countries show that they are on the side of Ukraine after the attacks of Russian forces on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. As it is known, Russia's attacks on the electricity infrastructure in Ukraine caused significant damage in Ukraine. After Russia's attacks on Ukraine's infrastructure, significant problems arose in the field of energy. In return, Ukraine sought support from Western countries in this regard. Support for Ukraine came from Lithuania today. Lithuania announced that the first batch of 13 generators to be sent has arrived in Ukraine. Only support Ukraine receives from Western countries is not limited to generators. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky shared the good news for Ukraine. Ukraine conveyed the development of air defense systems, which it wanted and needed for a long time. Zelensky announced that Ukraine has received new systems that will significantly strengthen its air defense system. He reported that Ukraine's sky protection is not 100% at the moment, but that they are slowly making progress towards this goal. Results of the missile and drone attacks of the Russian forces were not what Russia wanted. Zelensky noted that the result of massive missile strikes and drone strikes by Russian troops has accelerated the world's response. He emphasized that the world responded to these attacks by providing new aid to Ukraine. Zelensky also explained that Ukraine is doing its best to help the country as much as possible. Zelensky also made a statement about the attacks of the Russian forces. Russia continues to carry out intense attacks on Ukrainian territory. Russian troops attacked different points in various oblasts. On Monday, Russian forces attacked more than 50 points in the Zaporizhzhia, Kharkiv, Dnipropetrovsk, Mykolaiv, Donbass, and Kherson regions with planes, rockets, and multiple launch rocket systems. But many of them were blocked by Ukrainian troops. In the coming days, all kinds of moves like this will be very effective in the course of the war. It is also known that any military aid package to Ukraine is very important in order to have an advantage in the war. For this reason, any help from countries may even affect the fate of the war. Now, both countries must choose each step they will take very carefully and strategically. For this, it is imperative that both countries make no mistakes. Every move has become more critical in these days when operations have accelerated and violence has increased considerably. We'll see what happens in the next few days. We have reached the end of another video. You can support us by liking the video. You can easily follow new videos by subscribing. I wish you all a war-free day. See you.